Good afternoon, everyone, and hello from New York City. I'm here with dear friend, colleague, professional troublemaker, fragrance devotee, the great Serge Normand.
Hello, everybody.
Bonjour, Serge.
Bonjour, my darling.
We've left our homes today to talk about actually one of our favorite topics, among other things that are equally important, just slightly different. Fragrance.
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 Yeah.
We can talk about friendship, fragrance and friendship.
Along the way.
Along the way. But yeah, so we're here to share some products, to share some stories, to talk about inspiration. Serge and I have known each other for, well, let's just say 20 years. 20 years. And over the course of our friendship, our professional collaboration and friendship, we've both introduced fragrances into the world, and you've been part of every single one of mine.
I know, it's been
from the beginning.
Since the beginning. I mean, I feel like fragrance has always been a part of our lives, right?
Yes, and I think because fragrance was so much a part of our childhood, both of our childhoods. My mother was a great fan of fragrance. She would save up and buy her favorite fragrance, and when she would go out at night, we'd all stand downwind of her while she, you know, and then she sort of went off into the world. And I think you have similar stories of childhood.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, fragrance, you know, brings memories. Every time you smell something, and even for us, like since our, you know, the beginning of our relationship, I smell things, and it just also takes us back to different times also of events that we were part of, and I just love what it does.
What it evokes. It's fragrance is very. It has a lot of nostalgia connected to it, and sentiment, and so specifically, I happen to have a brand new fragrance. This lovely, beautiful, designed, unspoken, but we shall speak of it today.
I'm excited because I only knew about it since yesterday, so I'm kind of wait to hear more about it.
So it's brand new. It's actually launched in the UK already. It's at Superdrugs, and it launches here at Ulta in January. It is the first child of Stash, which I love so much. So Stash birthed Unspoken, and Unspoken is, I would sort of describe her as the more conventionally feminine or female fragrance. Notes very similar to Stash, so sort of a lot of the bottom that I love so much, so to speak, of Stash, but some new notes that I think are more recognizable and probably connect more with more female
a little more
fragrance buyers. Yeah, so there's pink peppercorn, there's peony, and there's sandalwood. I always say that this is a fragrance for humans, and without defining this one too much, I would suspect that this will be, what would I say? How do I say it without being too, it's a lady fragrance. It's a lady fragrance.
Which I think also this one is quite feminine too. It's just a different feel. I mean, to me, when I smell this one, the first
It's really nice.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Oh, I love it.
We
it's
worked
funny
on
because
this.
It's brand new for me. Like I'm so used to smell this one, which is for me like such a potpourri, I would say, like everything that I've ever known you wearing. Because I was always intrigued in the way you were wearing fragrance. People, every time we do an event, you always put it everywhere in your hair, and I just love that smell. And it's just kind of nice also to see something slightly different.
We've been working on this for a while, and then it goes away, and you put things, you know, together, and they come back, and to be reminded of how much we loved this was very exciting. We're meant to share with you that you can ask questions, post questions. We're excited to hear from you. Probably more excited to talk to you than we are to. No, I'm just kidding. We want to hear from you. But I also want to talk about this for a second, because this is very special also in my life.
It's like a little tree.
This is
how cute.
Lovely. They are all lovely. So this was yours. This was created actually for hair. This is like a
I mean, it's for hair because, you know, with the hair products, people were asking me, I've never loved everything too powdery, and with the travels and all the exotic places that we've been going to, you always kind of bring a little something away from them, you're inspired by it. So I kind of wanted that, and it's funny, like the whole process, and I think we can relate to that when you talk to companies who actually do amazing job by producing that. I don't know anything about fragrance to start with, apart
Right.
from
You
what
just
I
have an
feel.
instinct
So
about what-
it's all
yeah.
those feelings that we always talked about, and
Yeah.
try to convey what you're thinking, what you want to see, and that's why I was also so excited when that came out, because it was really the result of so many different things. I mean, Lovely has been amazing, and that was
She's
already
a
the
very
beginning
signature,
of
yeah.
and that suddenly became a little more.
No,
Something
you
happened?
finish. Catherine.
Hi,
Catherine.
Catherine. What does
Bonjour,
it-
Catherine. What does it
They
smell like?
Who? Which one?
I'm
Yours, I
assuming you
guess.
mean I'm assuming you mean unspoken, and this is always the hardest thing for me to describe, because even the words that describe smell are such a subjective way of conveying. But I will say that it has a hint of mystery. It's feminine, but it's a fuller bodied, if that makes sense, feminine fragrance, meaning that it's not super high, it's not high floral. It has just the right, in my opinion, amount of floral mixed with sandalwood and those kind of lower musky smells, which I think are so sexy and attractive. Mariah, I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Mariah says, what was the method of choosing the new fragrance composition? Okay, so that's an excellent question, and it kind of goes into all the products you see, because the methods aren't radically different, even when you're talking about fragrance and hair products. Because Stash was its mother, there were things that I felt were important to connect. This is a fragrance that I love. I wear it all the time, and I wanted it to relate, but I also wanted it to distinguish itself in the market, because would there be no point in it being identical? So I wanted more femininity. I wanted something that felt more immediately kind of understandable. Stash is a complicated fragrance. So the method of creating fragrance is talking with our perfumers at IFF, a house that I've worked with for years and years and years, and talking about kind of what you hope to create. It's a very complicated process. It's a long process. It's incredibly interesting, and it means endless smelling, samples coming back, talking about those, what we're trying to tweak. I usually talk in like higher, lower, bigger, warmer, sexier.
And all that means different things for different people.
For different people.
That's
so
why sometimes
getting
just,
there is complicated, but it's
and it's
really
an exciting
fun.
process.
It's a really exciting process. Why is the fragrance called Unspoken? Well, I guess it's based on Stash. So Stash originally was given that name because it had, for so many years, I had been working on it for about 10 years. We started working on Stash right after we launched Lovely. And at the point in which I was wearing it, it was a combination of three different notes that I was layering. And when I would get into a cab, or I'd go to a dinner, I'd be on a subway or walking the streets, people would always say, what is that? What is that? And it was such a yet unformed thing that I felt like I was passing off like contraband, that it was sort of this illegal deposit so Stash sort of became the working project title, but it's just too good to not use, and eventually Stash went out. Should we talk about our friendship?
Friendship, oh
How
my
do we
God,
begin?
there's so much to say.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's been amazing meeting you that many years ago, so it's always awkward when we speak like this, because we don't really do that in private, but we do remember the first times we met.
So the first time we met, I was hosting the MTV Movie Awards, and I had wanted to work with Serge for years and years.
And so did I.
And
Not with Serge, with Sarah.
Every time I would see hair in a magazine, and I'd try to open the spine to see the credits, and I'd see the name Serge Normant Hair, and often it was on Julia Roberts, because you've been working with Julia for
long time,
longer than me. And so finally, for the MTV Movie Awards, Serge was available, and we met in Los Angeles, and he came to the fitting, and we had all these ideas. I was going to change clothes 15 times or 13 times, and Serge came, and he was so helpful and so lovely. And then the next day, we rehearsed first before we went live, and Serge was very sick. And when I say very sick, I mean he was.
Yeah, I was not.
He wasn't able to keep.
I had a
things
terrible
down.
back problem at the time.
He had
And
a
a
back
friend of
problem.
mine had just said, "Take that; it will help you with
Yeah,
the
a little
painkillers."
tablet.
And I'm very sensitive. I'm a very sensitive
Your
Frenchman.
temple.
And I got sick from the moment I got to set.
But what happened when we went live on air?
And it stopped.
Dr.
But I have
Theater.
to say, for me, what also made our friendship like connect from that moment is that you were so supportive and so helpful. She even had a bucket, sorry for the details, a bucket next to the dressing room backstage where we had to do all those changes and never used that garbage plate. But then we wrapped, and then I got sick again for about a week.
Exactly.
But I was so excited, and we just had the best time. And I think, for us to work so many looks in such a small amount of time was just so exciting.
It was kind of an amazing experience.
And since then, we've just been going on.
As together as often as possible, as often as you'll allow. So how do you decide? Well, this is a good question for both of us. You're very committed to
fragrance to each day.
I think it's for me it's a connection that I make, and thus far, most recently I've just been wearing Stash as often as I can keep it in my purse. I usually end up giving it away to people on the street. And for you, it's always.
But also, don't you feel like you wear it in the morning, you just freshly out of the shower. It has a certain kind of scent, right? During the day, and that's what I love about fragrance. I don't love body odors. It's always weird to say that, but I like also what it does with someone's personal scent. So when someone has lived in with it a little bit during the day and you reuse the fragrance, it also takes different
and all of us
things, which is really nice.
Fragrance reacts differently on all of us. Obviously, now that she exists and will be here in the States in January,
I know that pages.
I'll be wearing her now. But I'm curious, actually. I'm going to see how these also.
I think it's nice to
marry.
It's nice to be able to have the options. I only have one for the time being.
No, you can always have some of this.
I'll use this quite a bit.
No, we get plenty of this. We also have that and rollerball. I think we're going to have rollerball with this. Yes, we're going to have rollerball, which is such a nice way of traveling because it has less weight in your bag or man purse. Fiona, what outfit would you wear with Unspoken? This is for you to decide, Fiona. I mean, I have a sort of allergy to rules and about do's and don'ts and yeses and nos. I feel like clothing and fragrance and shoes, it's what do you want to say when you walk out the door? What are you trying to convey? What is the story?
It can inspire you also different things at different days, the fragrance.
Yeah.
From all the different notes also can remind you something different on a daily basis. So
yeah, and this might feel to me like a more typically female fragrance, so I might be inclined to, I don't know, wear something that's a silhouette that speaks more of, feminine. I don't know. I sort of do what feels right on the day, in the moment. Where would I wear Stash, Becky? Well, everywhere, everywhere, anywhere. I mean, it's legal everywhere, so I would just wear it everywhere. There ought to be a law against these fragrances. Oh, I'm just kidding. That saying, there ought to be a law. I wear fragrance. You
wear it a lot in your hair, by
always.
The way.
I wear it.
It's a lot, yeah.
I mean, that's sort of how I apply liberally.
Yeah, which I love the way you do it.
But you do too. Like I always know when you're, and I always know because
I have a tendency to do it the
shampoos.
classic way. I always do it a little bit because I feel like that's why it stays the longest. And the fact that it doesn't really, it's not meant to really stay that strong on you.
Right.
I feel like I can really apply at the same place, but I have a tendency I took on you. I just go a little bit everywhere now.
It's sort of indulgent,
yeah.
But I'm not indulgent in lots of ways. Simon says, I love keeping up with your travels on Instagram. That's very nice of you. Do your trips inspire fragrance? For both of us, absolutely. In fact, this has elements of this route in the Atlas Mountain. I mean, like there are things that absolutely, we've been on trips in Morocco.
So many places, and that's the thing.
Markets far away.
All the spices and all those things. It can sound a little cliche when we say that, but that's the truth. I mean, I remember us going through markets in Morocco and just being like, do you smell that? And you are an aficionado of all those things. I mean, you love even smell that. Sometimes I'm like, but the strong reactions, and I love actually learning from you on that level because it just really helped me actually when I developed this. So it's just, the travel really makes a big difference in that.
Yeah, and I think it's beyond fragrance. I think travel, if you have an opportunity to travel, I think it's so good for us to
But even if we don't go to other countries, it's like even from here, like, we're in New York City, so it's like you go uptown, downtown, you go to China. There's all those different fragrances that you even feel within the same city that you're traveling in some ways. So
because
I think it doesn't have to be also in places where sometimes people say, oh, I'll never get to Morocco.
Get there,
But it just feels like you can really be inspired by that.
Cities are often like little...
especially now.
Are like little provinces, and you come up, our outer boroughs are wonderfully diverse, and there's amazing smells. Astoria has just some of the best food in New York City, and travel is enormously inspiring. Okay, Serge, this is the time of the show where we discuss favorite hair moments with Serge.
On you.
This is the favorite hair moments with Serge. All right, Serge.
Oh my God! But that's a question
do you have favorite moments, or do I have favorite moments?
I don't know. I hope they may be the same.
I think they're probably the same. We've had.
Oh my God! There's so many different things.
We've had some moments. Let's go backwards. I'll describe. Serge doing some extraordinary, almost like installation on my head, and often that weighs absolutely nothing. And remind me to talk about the mohawk, because everyone thinks,
which I think is the one that people ask always the most questions about, because it feels that that's maybe the most complicated thing to do. But it's Philippe Tracy, who did that piece, I can't take credit for that. It was the combination of teamwork with the thing, and when I saw it coming out, remember, I had a reaction to it, and I think it was so gorgeous. But at the same time, I was thinking, are you going to be able just to keep it on?
It was so light.
So it was definitely for me.
And what's amazing about that day is that we put it on, and we had worked on it the day before, and then you just, I would say maybe 10 minutes later, you had done that entire. It was like nothing. But there's so many, and I think. Just in terms of your artistry, some of the more complex construction is the stuff that I have loved the most, because it's spoken so much to your singular skill. But one of the great parts of the whole evening is coming home and trying to undo it all myself. And if my husband's away or he's working here, he's on stage, and I'm sitting alone in my bathroom pulling out, I don't even know how many pins. Sometimes, though, like with the mohawk, there were like 3 pins. But we have so many.
But I'm always afraid that something falls, so I have a way to twist hairpins in a way that it's almost impossible to take them out. So I always feel bad.
Where they go in, but then one guy goes backwards to stay.
I twist them.
As he calls it, hanker. But he means to say anchor. Okay, Kate wants to know a little or a lot. How much is too much fragrance, Kate? I don't feel that I'm equipped to answer this question, because I wanted to actually post on Instagram, but I was ashamed of how many bottles of Stash I'd gone through. This will be the case now with Unspoken.
But for some reason, it never feels too much, though. I mean, I'm always afraid also with mine. Like, I feel like, am I used to it now, that the fact that maybe I'm oblivious to it, and people just will be like, oh my God, here he comes.
Here he comes.
But I feel like it's okay.
And I feel like it's a very personal decision. I mean, some people are incredibly delicate in application. Some people like to be more polite than aggressive. I love fragrance. I have since I was a young girl. I bought my first fragrance when I was 18. I saved up to buy a fragrance, which doesn't exist anymore. So I've always been drawn to having that sort of be a part of, it's like clothing.
I mean, for me, even like starting working in salons.
Yeah.
Back in the days, I mean, we know all those brands from that time, and by association, like, especially in Paris, there's that kind of fragrance with women, a certain type of women also, like you walk down the street and then that scent, and it's just same thing again. It brings you back. Sometimes,
but
depends if you're stuck next to someone on the plane.
Cheryl wants to know what inspired the packaging of Stash and Unspoken. Very good question. So I've been working with this extraordinary creative director since we launched Lovely back then. His name is John DiNapoli, and he is no one like him. They broke the mold, and that's a funny thing to say because he actually makes molds. But when we started working on Stash, I wanted to once again sort of create this kind of packaging that we were handing off this parcel. So initially, it was simply wrapped in like butcher paper, like brown grocery wrapping paper, really kind of crude in a way, with just twine wrapped, because I really wanted to tell the story of passing off something that was private. Once I said, like, again, contraband, like it was my personal thing, and I was Now, I don't have the secondary packaging and all that, but it's sort of that birthed this more, what we expect from packaging, but I still liked all this. This is just masking tape, and
I
this
think that's one of my favorite
just
things.
Sharpie and gold, that we kind of wanted to make each one like almost personal, like each bottle is created just for the person buying it. And then we felt we had to and wanted to stay very much with the same packaging for Unspoken. Let me just spray it again because it's really super nice.
It's actually, I love the way it smells
it's really
now
nice.
too.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, John in particular, because he's got such good, smart, connective ideas, to do this sort of rose gold masking tape, but keep our lettering, keep the packaging, keep this nice twine around the collar, and thus was born our packaging. That wasn't Abby, that was somebody else. And now Abby says, what's the perfect occasion for Unspoken? It's so personal. I mean, what is for you, Abby? Are you somebody that only wears fragrance for special occasions, or are you, you know, is it a holiday? I mean, that's such a personal experience, and what I love about Stash was we discovered people were wearing it, people we didn't expect to wear it. A lot of men were wearing it as a fragrance or cologne. And some people are all-day fragrance users, and some days.
And the thing is also the fact that they're different. That also gives you the opportunity to wear that at different times and for different occasions. It's kind of nice just to see that.
She's like, you can consider me too.
That was our first one.
After all, I am
it's so cute.
The home. I don't know, what is she? She built the house. She's the
foundation.
She's the supporting wall. She's the I-beam. No, I don't know what she is. Thomas, what's your favorite place in New York? I'm lousy at favorites.
Yeah, it's hard because the thing is there's so many, I mean, New York, that's what we love New York, right?
Yeah.
There's just so many amazing spots. I mean, we always...
It keeps revealing itself to you, and neighborhoods change all the time. Yeah. There are still places I've yet to go. I know exactly where they are. There's new train lines that exist, which means we can go to neighborhoods we just simply haven't gone to because they weren't on our regular, you know, I don't know, our regular transportation lines. I think the outer boroughs to me have been some of the most exciting times I've had recently in New York, just because they continue to change. As I said, they're so diverse, there's so much food, there's so much culture that's brought to the communities. And so you're often walking through areas that are specific to a place far away. It's just very exciting, and that's what we both love, I think, about cities, is how much...
Is, because you rediscover it all the time here. I mean, how many times, you know, not that long ago, I just went on the east side, walking places that I've never walked. I've been here for quite a few years. But you know, that's what's amazing. And then new little restaurants and new little closing shops. It's pretty amazing. We have
lots of nice small businesses that we like to support. Lizzie, I miss Lizzie. I'm so sorry. Oh, that is Lizzie. When did you launch Lovely? What did it? What inspired it back then? So Lovely was launched, I think, 12 or 13 years ago. If I might. There. You know, give or take a year on either side. And initially what inspired Lovely is that I was layering for years and years a bunch of fragrances, one from the street, one from the drugstore, and one from a small company that really was just making sort of generic oils. And every place I went, people asked how they could get their hands on whatever I was wearing, and my husband would come home and say, oh, my friend wondered if you can. And so, because I love fragrance, I one day simply just had the courage to say to somebody in my professional life, do you think there's somebody I can talk to about creating a fragrance? And I finally found the right partner. I had kept names for fragrances for many, many years. Lovely was the first name. I never thought it would be available. And it sort of beautifully came together. I think it was just the right time. I was very interested in really creating a signature fragrance, which at the time was sort of out of fashion. But she's really been true to that. She's been around that many years. People feel a lot of affection. I do, a connection to it. And she's remained a signature fragrance. And she's aging beautifully.
The ads we did for it.
And we did the ad for it.
It was just like very much in tune with that. I mean, I still look at them today and feel so...
You did the hair, Laura Mercier did the makeup, Mr. De La Renta built the dress for it. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was really special.
It was an amazing thing to come out.
Did Josie styled it.
Josie styled it, and Michael Thompson shot the picture.
Yeah, Michael Thompson.
It was just a beautiful...
That's like a team of experts.
Yeah.
That's hardcore. That's like when you're, that's the big leagues. James, Serge, what is one of your beauty secrets, Serge?
I mean, for me, I don't really have a lot of secrets. I just feel
like
it's always.
You give women about their hair.
But I just feel like, with the hair changes every day. And I think hair, once you cut it, it grows back. So I'm always one of those who, even though I come from a place where you used to find a style and you stick to it your whole life, yeah. I'm completely the opposite of that now. It's like I just wish people could try things more. It's use your hair as an accessory. So
it's hard.
You experiment and just play with it, and you don't have to stick to it. So I feel like it's always finding the right products, the right amount. Don't overload your hair in terms of products. That's what I feel like. You just lay your things to dream big. The back comb in the bottle.
It's the best. It's the thing that I love, and we really use this in our house, as you well know, is that it allows those of us who aren't skilled in the way you are to feel like we can leave the house and sort of mimic the thing that our hair cutter sort of did originally. And it's hard. Some women are really good at it. This is a friend. This is a friend. Oh my gosh, start wrapping up. What?
Already?
Really?
Oh my God, that went fast.
The audience is like, yes, please start wrapping up. Well, I guess we just, how do you wrap up? I mean, I'm lousy at goodbyes. Thanks for spending some time with us. I hope we answered most of the questions. If we didn't, you can go to SJP Beauty, ask us more. Serge Normand,
.com.
And you can go to Serge Normand on Instagram.
And we can continue the conversation.
Right? Thanks for spending this very brief amount of time with us. And we hope we've been an enjoyable 30 minutes, helpful. So happy week. It's Tuesday?
It is Tuesday,
It's Tuesday. It's been a good week thus far.
So far.
I hope yours has been. How's that?
Thank you, guys.
Did we do it? Bye. Au revoir. Goodbye. Farewell. Till next time.